Welcome to his story 2.2 or 2.2, and this one resonates to the second next big thing. The second next big thing we identified, and all of the big things after monopoly we described as travel. When mankind began to travel from his local villages and communities, and to travel as a hunter, and eventually to travel in commerce, and Marco Polo, etc., etc. Anyway, travel is the subject of this because one of the things that I invented, or that we invented with our coming confluence of convergence, is the advent of virtual travel. As I've described it before, I've invented or imagineered, which actually I'm sure is in your labs already. I was just imagineering what I think you already know in your science and technology labs and your technology company labs, that the future beyond computing, beyond cell phones, was iPhones, connected wirelessly with video and audio, with computers that talk to yourself, the ability to provide language translation, the ability to create virtual travel throughout the entire planet and even the universe. And just imagine how it would happen. Most of you might be familiar with Google Earth, where it has a sort of a static representation of virtual Earth. But imagine a Google Earth real time, where we took the cameras, where you see, I'm not going to get into the background of the technologies, but the Google Earth stuff doesn't change a lot. But when you start throwing people in the middle, people are coming and going all the time. But imagine the ability to take the reality around you, captured in 3D cameras, and then, think about this. If you had head-mounted cameras on people collecting real-time information and putting it to the clouds on our streets, you would have a real-time representation of reality in our streets, in our fields, in our villages. And how might this play in the reality of us? Now, first I described that the idea is not to tell the world it would change, but to create a conspiracy where the rich and the powerful of the world decide it's their own self-interest to create a merged enterprise, what lies beyond all nations, an enterprise of us I call we the people of Earth.biz. What lies beyond G8 is G*. Now, the thing here is that enterprise I imagineered was almost like a stealth startup that would capture the allegiance of the world's wealthy and have them fund a secret reinvention of the entire underpinnings and technology of the planet. And while they were doing about it, then the political dear leaders would be leading each other to a change and to create sort of a common future for us. And I would hope that the religious leaders from other religions of the world recognize the power of this vision and the nature of what I imagineered as almost our own judgment day. It was built on the principle that we have the power to save ourselves. Also, the principle that if we don't save ourselves, it's gonna get bad out there. We could destroy ourselves. And when you look and face the prospects of the numbers that become before 2, you say it's a choice between 0 and 1, which you choose. One monopoly of us not to zero ourselves out. And, 2 is travel. Now, think about this. These iPhones allow virtual travel. So, let's say I wanted to travel around the world. You could easily travel to a village in China, in India, or in Africa, and you could easily have, people that were located in their living rooms in America or Europe, taking their skills and applying them throughout the world by virtually applying their knowledge and virtually communicating. Because see, just imagine this. On the other side, let's say in a village, you have somebody running around, or a few people running around with iPhones. And so all of a sudden you're capturing what's going on around the villages and how we're building out a more prosperous future and helping them with farming, etc. Now all of a sudden, but then, see, you can zoom in there and all of a sudden right in front of their eyes comes you. Now it's really just an image of you, but it's a 3D image and it can talk to you. Now, there's problems with the languages, but the computers would take your language and translate it to whatever language they had. Imagine the possibilities of that. Now, the economic structure of eliminations of nations will basically change the paradigm of how we run our own global enterprise. And, well, imagine an enterprise that's sort of a profit for profit with its own built-in charity. But here's the thing, and it gets back to the power of the D word, disintermediation. And that is simply this, that it is a contract not between a nation and an individual. It is a contract between an individual and an enterprise and all people on the planet. It's a contract between people, not an imaginary nation, and not even an imaginary enterprise. But, so, let's think about this. Now, I described the key foundation of our future monopoly as a monopoly on the currency that we use, the money. And I've described it in other stories. I've called it, you can call it what you want. I've called it rainbow stars. You could call it anything you want. It really doesn't matter. If it's possible to create infinite money out of infinite minds, if it's possible to create a global reserve bank with our virtual currency. Now, why is virtual important? Well, you see, the thing is, in the future, it will be a technology future, not one where we let technology haphazard with hackers crashing and killing our systems, and are killing our systems by poor design, which I don't even get me on, how we're killing time by waiting for computers to tell us what to do. The time we kill in bad process is just outrageous. But anyway, the point is simply this. We start changing the whole paradigm of money. Now, with virtual money, here's the thing. It's totally traceable. Now, first thing, we can start to apply it and how we pay it and how we compensate people for the intellectual property. Because not only will we have virtual money, we'll have virtual stock. And everybody will be a shareholder of virtual stock in the enterprise of Earth. Not an equal shareholder because, well, for those in wealthy nations, we would not take away those in wealthy nations and the wealth their heritage created, but we would dedicate ourselves to maintaining our own prosperity while advancing our prosperity of people across all nations. And through that, we create a more powerful trickle-up economics and, well, by collecting our global technology innovations and having competitive enterprises within our structure, it doesn't mean that we don't compete with ourselves with little companies. When I say little companies, they could be global companies on your scale, but it doesn't mean that we don't, have GE doing its thing. Although might be things that GE don't need to do, like finance, because, well, the whole banking system is one that would be restructured and reformed and recreated. Anyway, with virtual money, here's the thing. People say, how do you get rid of corruption? Well, here's very simply the thing. You simply, well, you're tracking the money. So if a politician, if they did have a politician, which they don't, we have people in the enterprise, become corrupt, we know how they got corrupt and where the money came from and where it went, because it's all traceable. Now, you say, wait a minute, we should have our privacy. No, that's part of the contract. When you enter the contract, you have certain Well, contractual duties, and that would be your money's traceable. Now, you get rewards for whatever you're entering the contract for, but you don't have the ability to be corrupt, or at least the idea would be we'd minimize that, both on a trust by verify technology scale, but also on teaching the people the right things to do, which when we look at our good books, we can all decode what's right and what's wrong. It's sort of a common understanding. It might even be an understanding from one God. Anyway, so imagine a world, and so here's the weird thing. See, in 2005, before you already had YouTube or Facebook, I imagine you had this future. And well, see, in this future, you could literally have 1 billion or 2 billion, or in the future 1 trillion people sitting right here in the, well, I'm not at a living room right now. I won't even tell you where I am unless you're watching one of my mini channels. But you could sit there and you could listen to me. Why would you want to listen to this crazy guy? And so that gets into the paradigm. Why would anybody in your reality want to go on YouTube and listen to a guy, let alone look at his writings? If you ever looked at my writings, they're crazy. I've emailed crazy writings to all your dear leaders that look like spam. But what were they? They were called to be decoded. They were words. They were the words of a prophet. The prophet of prophets and the prophet of prophets. I became that prophet of prophets. I am not trying to become anything I'm not. I became a fantasy reality character. I don't really exist. I became a character in my own mind, and I recreated that character in my own reality. Now, what is this all about? It's sort of, well, okay. What if you had a reality character out there in what you call and name as your cyberspace, and that character was telling you the truth and was sending the truth to the aliens? Now, of course, in the reality of millions and billions, nobody really saw. But what if they did? I've described that sort of like a man created his own Truman Show, and he's become his own Forrest Gump. Well, in this reality, although you don't know it yet, he's really famous. In fact, it's like he's so famous he doesn't even exist. He doesn't even want to exist. He's almost an illusion of your own creation, because he's an illusion. Actually, he's the reality of your upside-down reality, and he's here to deliver the message of truth, Al-Haq 51. And anyway, that's interesting. We just think about that. Now, if truth could set you free, would it matter? That is a question, right? If we could achieve infinite prosperity by changing the structure of our existence, would that matter? So if you think about these crazy videos, you might think about this more as a, well, think about it in time. Let's say the reality did change, and let's say this was a reality character, then this would be priceless footage that would sell for thousands, potentially thousands of years of the time of arrival. And it wouldn't just be the footage of the crazy or me, because on the other side of the equation is all of your dear leaders from the right and the left, from communist to capitalist, conspiring each other, from Iran and Iraq to the United States, from Israel and all, conspiring with each other to create one enterprise of us under one power of one God. Now, that's a pretty big movie on the outside of this. So what does that play? Well, that conspiracy, I said back then to the Atlas angels, when one angel falls, so shall they all. So imagine on the outside of the inside of my reality, the angels have came, and they are creating the miracle of 1,000 years of justice and peace on earth. That they are building this future, and that I am merely in the middle, discussing the craziness of the matter and the matter of us. This has been a message from We the People of Earth.biz, an imaginary state to cancellate and replace all imaginary nations. Thank you for